Nerdrotic.com.
We have some Marvel stuff to talk about because we got a new episode of Wandavision that Jeremy saw 10 minutes of. But that is half the episode right there. I mean, because there was only, I think, 5 minutes of episode tonight.
A bit of a short one, I guess. They're all shortish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They're all under half an hour.
I think this is going to be just a Disney Plus thing, a way to cut cost, or they're just chopping up movies here. I like it. I think it's pretty good for what it is. It seems like this is going to be Disney storytelling on Disney Plus, which is it's going to be very light, very cartoon type plots, but like something actually happened in this episode. So I thought it was pretty cool. And that was Monica Rambeau, right? So they're stringing this thing along, so there better be a brilliant payoff at the end. That's all I'm saying. That's
I mean, I think it's reasonably paced for what it is. It's definitely kind of drip feeding us a lot of little details here and there, and it probably would benefit a great deal from a second watch once we finally see all the reasons behind things. It's very much relying on an eventual payoff, which is going to be coming whenever they decide to, have it happen. But individual episode wise, I like the first two more than the third. I felt that they did their time periods a little bit more aptly than this one. I didn't care much for the plot of the show this third episode. I mean, if I could sit down and watch them all, I would. If they were all out, I'm very interested to see what they do with it.
I quite liked the plot line of the episode, the second one, the magic show. I thought it was charming as hell, and some of the jokes were actually landed pretty well for me. Like the attempt to change the piano into something light to account for how Vision's picking it up because everyone's getting confused. And then that guy in the audience is like, oh man, that's my grandmother's dress. It's I liked the element of two actual like creatures capable of what we could call magic doing a magic show and using their magic to make the real magic look like fake magic. I think that's neat. I think they nailed the 50s and 60s way better than the 70s was just mainly in the house. And I don't know, I just feel like they could have done more with it. But in fairness to the third episode, there was a lot more intrigue in the seams coming apart, more and more things going.
I think this episode was more trying to say that Wanda is having more and more difficulty holding on to the reality of the world that she's currently inhabiting. In this episode, she's constantly losing it. It's raining inside. Things are spinning around. The stalk comes alive from the wall and starts moving around. And, so I actually think it was very subtly trying to say that Wanda's mental state is breaking down and she's no longer able to control the world that's going on the way that she has been controlling it. In the first episode, she's a very secure housewife, and yes, she's trying to make a meal and everything, but she's always in charge, and when she comes together with Vision, they got everything sorted. In the second episode, she's trying to juggle the magic trick because of the gum inside of Vision, and so it becomes a little bit more chaotic, and we have the introduction of color. We have the introduction of the helicopter, which is color, and then we have the introduction of the blood, which is color. And then in this episode, when the world goes to color to potentially compensate for the fact that color's seeping into the black and white world, she starts to lose control of her own environment with the pregnancy. And then the great thing is when they did the twins trick, because she herself is a twin, that's when everything broke down and we got the sinister element of the episode kick in. And I thought that was fucking brilliant. She starts to remember Pieta, and is it Pieta, her brother?
Pietro.
Yeah. Then she starts getting serious and angry. And when she started getting angry, then it started to affect the world again. And then it ended up with her trying to dismiss it with Vision, but not before she'd ejected the woman from the world. So I'm beginning more and more to think that whatever's going on is actually Wanda's doing, as opposed to Wanda being trapped by somebody else. So I actually thought there's a lot of really, really subtle subtle clues as to what's going on mentally with Wanda.
Or like, I don't even know, obviously, where this is set in the timeline, where this is even going.
That's my question.
I wonder if they're setting her
Endgame.
up to be, she's like the big bad of the next
Maybe.
fate.
Maybe.
Is that what they're
Well,
kind
she
of
has
saying?
that kind of power. She can bring the dead back to life in a way.
Am I dead?
No. Why would you think that?
Because you are.
How's Vision there? I know that she's got other individuals trapped. I mean, like, not every person in there is something that I think she created. I think she trapped a bunch of people in there for the whatever.
Yeah.
So they're
We don't
acting
quite have
independently.
a grasp over how much real control she has over everything. There's two people by the wall saying, kind of implying, talking to Vision. I mean, are they trapped there?
I don't think we'll get away after all. Small towns, you know, so hard to escape.
The black woman didn't have a house at all.
Yeah, she didn't have a home.
I think Monica Rambeau was sent in there to try to figure out what's going on. That's the only thing that makes sense.
It's that organization, the Sword organization, obviously, are trying to crack it open or something.
Yeah, they're monitoring it. They're either trying to rescue her from it, like the voice in the radio.
Wanda. Who's doing this to you, Wanda? Wanda. Wanda.
It looks like she has had some sort of issue happen to her that has caused her to do this, that she was able to throw Monica Rambeau out of this force field. I think that they don't know, whoever's outside, they don't know whether it's Wanda that's doing this, whether someone is controlling her. That's what the voice says, like, Wanda, who is doing this to you? Yeah. So whether it's some sort of outside force that has caused her to do this or is influencing her, but it's definitely Wanda's making.
Seems to me she's cooperating with the delusion. She wants it to be maintained, and
she wants the fantasy. She wants what she always wanted with Vision. I am not a big fan of the sitcom stuff. I'm more interested in what it's actually going on plot wise. But like, you have to give them credit for doing something different. Although I do not think that this is as big of a risk as we view it as now, because when this show went into development, they had no idea that we weren't going to see Black Widow, we weren't going to see Eternal, we weren't going to see any of this stuff. They did not know that theaters would be shut down. This was probably just supposed to be, the first thing on Disney Plus, and it wasn't even supposed to be that. That was supposed to be Falcon and Winter Soldier, until that ran into production issues. This was never meant to be some big risk to open up the next phase of Marvel. It just kind of happened that way.
I really like the comedy elements though, Ryan, because we know it's not a comedy show. If you're watching like Red Dwarf, you know it's a comedy.
He's a smig.
And therefore you know the sort of rules of the comedy universe. This, we know, is set in a genuine, earnest universe. Because we've got this comedy aesthetic, I'm like paying as much attention as I can to what's being said, joke-wise, the jokes having hints. So all the kind of comedy aspects are leading very specifically down a line. So I'm paying a lot of attention to kind of what's going on, because I think there's also extra hints and potential Easter eggs in the comedy itself.
To back you up on that one, Mr. Ad, when watching it, I am taking a lot of, so if the joke makes me laugh on the surface, that's one thing. Then you think about what it might mean. Any shot that hangs on a face for just 1 second too long, I'm like, wait, why? What does that mean? Are they awake? Do they know? And of course, the ads in each of the 3 episodes. The third, I would say, relating to probably what Wanda wants, like relaxation and getting away from the stresses of not only having lost Vision, but everything to do with Thanos and the world and being dusted and everything. But the first 2, very interesting to me. The red light blinking, the watch ticking, and of course the makers of each of the items relevant to Stark. Her origin, which my reference is the MCU, so I'm going to miss things out potentially from whatever it was adapted from. But her and her brother and potentially her family, I can't remember exactly, but they were stuck in their house with a ticking Stark bomb that wouldn't go off, and they just stared at it. And they viewed that as Stark essentially like locking them into terror, and that's what like motivated them to become anti-Stark. And just having those references in those ads makes me like, oh my god, what are we doing here? Like, I'm so interested. So even if like some of these average antics with, oh look, I dropped this, oh no, the boss is coming when we expected to have a load, I'm just sitting there like, what are we doing? What's going on?
What's really going on? Yeah. She's a mutant. Pietro was a mutant, and they're going to be introduced in this show, the mutants, some way. I don't think they're going to like introduce you to Wolverine, but they're going to introduce it somewhere. And it's supposed to set up the Doctor Strange film, which is a couple years away, directed by Sam Raimi, which could be very cool or not. We'll find out. I like what they're doing. I like that this is different. And I think the short episodes work for this perfectly. I think everything works. And I like this episode because they started moving things forward a little bit. And, I think it all depends on the payoff, but this has an ambitious setup that I'm looking forward to. So, good on Marvel for not going, completely woke and bringing in the MCU and doing something that's in line with what they have been doing and making it a little more interesting. If you like what I do here, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking and sharing the videos. It really does help. And if you did this with your favorite YouTuber as well, I'm sure they would appreciate it as much as I do.